That's the first point. This whole topic is absurd. We need to live with more love and more kindness and more care, which means we slowly have to start to eradicate projectiles which can harm each other. If you have a gun at home and you don't need one, let it go. Stop buying toys that are violent. Stop teaching your kids how to fight. I understand that in some cities and countries that's not possible, and my wife keeps reminding me about that. But honestly, what is a country? A country is just a collection of human beings. So somewhere we have to push it into the consciousness of these human beings that, hey, violence is not okay, or it's not nice. It's something we can do, yes, because we have muscles and bones that they work. I get it. And then we have projectiles like the topic of this video, but that is not how we build a kinder and more loving planet. And yes, there's a space for all technology and tools, including guns, including huge projectiles, bigger than guns, which could maybe save our planet one day in a war with a more violent race or planet. Sure, but that doesn't mean we got to start shooting each other now. I think we can stop. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Zephyr Show. If you're hearing this as a podcast on Spotify, Apple or Google, then you know that you are tuned into The Zephyr Show. Those of you on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube or Instagram wondering what Zephyr Show is he talking about, all these episodes on video are available for you to hear. Let's say you're the kind of person who listens to audio while you drive or work out or so on and so forth, under The Zephyr Show on Spotify, Google and Apple Podcasts, or on my website. So feel free to access whichever medium you like. Now, for those of you who are here again and again, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot. And for those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Zephyr. I am a spiritual life success and authenticity coach from Singapore. I'm also an actor, a musician, a recording artist. Basically, I was one of the top students in Singapore, went to the best schools, dropped out, decided to get a degree in music and pursue a path more authentic to me. And along the way, I've learned quite a bit about success, both the conventional way and the non-conventional way. And now I teach about all this on my platforms, one-on-one for private clients, via courses and coaching and group classes, also training in the corporate space. So that's a lot of things there. Feel free to check it on my website. And now I'd like to jump into this topic immediately. I apologize that I'm not in my usual color-coded attire, which I try to do for my audience on YouTube. I know people like visuals, but this is sort of an emergency topic. I was over at dinner at a friend's house yesterday night, and he mentioned, he's like, do you know what happened? And when I say friend, most of my friends are adults 10 or 15 years older than me. I just find a way to have conversations with people older than me. I just enjoy it. So he's sort of a mentor in a sense, and he mentioned, do you know what happened? And I was like, no. He's like, it was in the papers. I said, I stopped reading the papers 20 years ago because all the news around planet Earth is so depressing. And he said there was another mass shooting, one of the biggest ever. And I kind of just flipped. It was supposed to be a wonderful dinner. We were eating what they call raclette from Switzerland because they lived in Switzerland before they came here to Singapore. And they called me over after one of my first swimming lessons again in a very long time, after 20-25 years, because I wanted to learn the freestyle, the front crawl more accurately. And he says, what was supposed to be a very relaxed dinner for me celebrating my accomplishments of being so productive the past few days turns into one part of my mind is racing like, wow, there's a mass shooting. And being spiritually tuned and all that, sometimes I can feel, and many of you might be able to feel the energy moving throughout planet Earth when such an event has happened, and it's not pleasant. My heart's been pounding the past few days. I'm having trouble just getting this video and podcast out because of the nature of the topic. Since then, my mind has been stirring, and I put a post up on LinkedIn and Facebook today and Twitter, and I tried to tag the US government. Because that's what we would do in Singapore. We would tag the one authority for every different occurrence or happening if you want to get their attention. So something culture related in Singapore, it's the Ministry of Culture, Communication and the Youth or something like that, MCCY if I'm not wrong. And if it's something to do with national security or something, you just tag, PAP, People's Action Party, and so on and so forth, because it's a small country. But as I'm learning, the legal system in the US is very, very complex. And that might make this issue more complex to tackle. But on a human level, I'd like to get this message out there to anybody who's a human being, and that's all of you. And well, there might be some aliens listening in, because if you watch certain Netflix documentaries, and really if you go deep into spirituality, you know that there's been other terrestrials on our planet for ages, but let's skip that right now. You are a human being if you're watching this. Hopefully you're someone powerful in a place of legislature or public policy or the law, and you can actually make changes. If not, I'd like to urge any of you listening to this via video or audio to get this message out there to them if they've not already got it, and really repeat the message, because it's proven, I think, in psychology, and marketing makes use of this, where when you repeat a message again and again, it starts to sink into the person's consciousness deeper. And besides that, on the spiritual side, I wanted to move into the collective consciousness, and me making this video and audio is me doing my part to get it out there. First, I'd just like to talk about the topic of this vlog/audio, gun control in the United States. Isn't that a silly phrase? Gun control. That basically means weapons control. In a day and age like today, if we have to have weapons control, we do have to have weapons control, by the way, but I'm saying the fact that we even have to talk about it or think about it or bring it to people's attention, it just shows to me how brainless, to be candid, in what a brainless way we're operating all around planet Earth, or maybe even in the US, because this topic is for the US. Accidents are happening. And I understand some of you would say that that was not an accident because the shooter actually wanted to do it. I get that. But I'm saying at a human level, at a race level, we're supposed to be the most evolved race currently on the planet, aside from the UFOs. How backward and how caveman-like it still is that we're still talking about gun control. That's nothing against cavemen, obviously, and I am fully for spirituality and doing what anybody wants to do in life. But I'm just saying that if we're trying to be more loving and come together as a species, which I think most people have been trying to do on their more humane days, or even the evil people, I mean, there's no such thing as evil, but even the evil people, humans, the ones who are more evil, I mean, even on their special humane days, you know, there's efforts, let's different countries meet in a setting, in a conference, you know what I'm saying here. So we try to do all these things, and we try to have efforts, and we do charity drives, and we do all that. So I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's safe to assume that humanity is still alive on this planet. Now, if kindness and love are still alive, it's crazy or in opposition to think that we still have to discuss not letting human beings run around with life-threatening projectiles. Basically, because that's what a gun is. It shoots a piece of metal or plastic, depending on if it's a toy, at high enough speeds to harm someone. Does that sound like something an evolved species would do? I don't know, but I'm not going to teach my kid that. We're going to try our best at home, and I'm going to talk to my wife about this. And hey Kai, if you're watching this then, or hearing this, then this is the first time you're hearing about it. I do not want any toys that are guns or military or armed forces around the house, because what are we actually teaching our children? And depending on when you're watching this video, I had actually accidentally taken down a message video of mine called Reminisce from my YouTube channel, but go watch that. It's an instrumental piece of music where I've compiled info into a message video about what we're actually doing on planet Earth, so go check that out. It's crazy. But of course we can do better. We're not going to have those kinds of things in the house because it's violence. We are propagating violence through our toys and our movies and our books. I even did a book review about Lee Child. It talks about Jack Reacher, and even those books, on my more peaceful days, I look at them and I feel pain in my heart and I go, wow, this is a violent story. Why am I reading such violent things? And these are just toys and books I'm talking about, because I moved off the point for a sec. Back to the point, these are actual guns. If that doesn't make you sit up and go like, if you're watching this video and after watching this, if you don't sit up and go like, holy shit, yeah, he's right, it's actual violence, then maybe you're not listening to your soul at all. Because what kind of planet are we building if we have to discuss whether humans are allowed to go around shooting each other? Basically, that's the issue distilled down, is what it is. That's the first point. This whole topic is absurd. We need to live with more love and more kindness and more care, which means we slowly have to start to eradicate projectiles which can harm each other. Sure, we can have some as a safe supply for, let's say, an interspecies war or an interplanet war, because we don't know how many other planets function yet. If you read the work of Dolores, which I'll leave in the description to this YouTube video from my Amazon link, full disclosure, if you buy a book from there, I get like 0.002 cents or something. But yeah, please help me out so I can continue doing this full time. Or if you read Conversations with God, which I'll also link in the description, I've read both. You understand that there are many other planets and many other forms of consciousness, and not all of it is evolved. And on Earth, we're very dangerously close to being advanced, but not evolved. So it's two different things, as mentioned in Conversations with God. Because even evil consciousness could be advanced, right? Like I wipe you guys out with a bomb. Like, that's not very loving. It's advanced, but it's not evolved. Now, for point number 2, whatever the laws might be in different countries, including the US, at the center of all that lawmaking and jurisdiction and so on is a human being's want to have this weapon. Because think about it, if no human being wanted this weapon, then there wouldn't be such a law, right? It's very simple and straightforward. Obviously, some people still want these weapons. That's why these laws are still being made. So this is my question to you in point number 2. Why do you need a gun? To anybody listening who wants a gun, why do you want a gun? What do you need one for? And I've debated this back and forth in my head, and the only conclusion I can come to, the only one that makes sense to me is, maybe you're a meat eater, but you're also very pure of soul, and therefore you don't agree with factory farming meats, all the meat that we eat, basically me included. You don't agree with all that torture, and so you're going like, I want to end the life of this animal that I want to eat immediately. So there's minimal pain to the animal, and I still get to enjoy the meat, right? Basically, hunting with one shot. And that is a kind of idea I could get behind while you're transitioning into a plant-based diet. Or maybe you'll never transition and you'll always need meat because you've been conditioned so strongly to eat meat when you were young, just like me, and fair and well, and that's your life, and that's fine. But maybe that's why you think you need a gun. So it then follows that if that's the reason you need a gun, you probably live in the wilderness, because think about it, no wild animals live in the city, right? So if you live in the city by default, you should not be having a gun, just based on that, if that's the only reason you would need a gun. And other than that, I really can't think of any other reasons you would need a gun. When people say, this is our right, this is our need, this is our freedom, these are the words I'm seeing being used online from Americans, either themselves or about other Americans who they disagree with, and really in any country, not just America. So what exactly do you need a gun for? In a cosmopolitan city where you live around other people, where you could go into a classroom and shoot them, this kind of setting, first world or second world setting, what would you need a gun for? The only other slight possibility I can think about, and I'm thinking about that because my friends in the Singapore Army, Navy and Air Force tell me we only exist for defense. We're not here to attack anybody. We're peaceful. We're just here to defend. I don't know how true that is. I haven't gone deep into psychology, but that's what they say. Let's take it at face value. So if it's just for defense, and now you need a gun for self-defense, if nobody else in that cosmopolitan city has a gun, what exactly do you need a gun to self-defend against? What's the answer? There's no answer. Like, oh, somebody might attack me with a kitchen knife. Well, use your kitchen knife. It's a fair battle. You have kitchen knives. We're all allowed to buy knives for use at home. Go fight with your knives and forks, if that's what they're attacking you with. Oh, they're attacking me with a drone. That should be illegal, right? And I think it is. And I've heard from a friend who's into 3D printing and so on and into machines that a drone actually, he flew it really fast accidentally and it took a branch off a tree. Now that shit could hurt, I get it. But really, who's attacking you with a drone? Really, when people say we need weapons, it's self-defense or freedom. Self-defense against what? Freedom in what context? Because the last I checked, with all the spiritual masters around planet Earth, freedom is really, firstly, a state of spirituality, a state of soul, and a state of mind, right? One can be in a prison but be free mentally, right? And even if you go like, oh, no, we're not talking so esoteric. We're talking about actual freedom. But what's actual freedom in the 3D realm? You swim wherever you want, you walk wherever you want, you sleep wherever you want, you eat whatever you want, you talk to whoever you want, and you go wherever you want. That's freedom. What does a gun have to do with that? It doesn't have anything to do with that. So I don't understand when people say, we want a gun, we need a gun. We want a gun because we need a gun. That doesn't make any sense. It's not that you need a gun, it's that you want a gun. Maybe in the past, when certain laws were made, like hundreds of years ago, when guns were needed to protect against aggressors, you needed a gun. But it's 2022, guys, and today the date is 26th May, 9:05 p.m. in Singapore. You don't really need a gun. Now, some of you may be saying, oh, but you live in Singapore, that's a very sheltered environment. So it's you, Zephyr, who doesn't need a gun. Okay, that's true, I don't. So some of you might further elaborate and say, we need a gun because this, right? So feel free to elaborate in the YouTube comments, write to me, and I'll make videos about that, about why you actually need guns. But I don't think that there's any reasonable answer to that. And hence that's my second point. Why do you actually need a gun? I don't hear laws about, it's my right to go out and serve people and talk to them and love them and hug them and kiss them. Why are we not hearing more of that? Why are we hearing, it's my right to have a gun? What about the right to love other human beings? What happened to that? Why is nobody walking into each other's states without a passport and saying, I just want to give you a hug? And when the border police say, well, you can't do that. Why don't they rebel and say, well, it's our right to love? Why are we not having that? Why are we having, it's my right to have a gun? Somebody might be scared, right? That's the flip side of this point. People might say like, yeah, Zeph, you're right. We don't actually need guns, but we think we need guns because we've been scared and we see all this stuff on the media and we see all this brutality and this and that and so on. So we think we need guns. And that again then brings me back to point one, which is what a ridiculous planet we've created if people who don't actually need guns think they need guns. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. We've planted such fear into different people's minds through our own actions as a species that I think we should start to change, don't you? That sounds a little ridiculous to me. My third point, and one of my last points, is I've said this a gazillion times, and it's even on my website as a quote on the About page, which is that calm, whole, aligned, balanced, peaceful, and happy human beings don't go around shooting each other, getting in power struggles, ignoring the environment's well-being, and so on. So clearly, this person who did this mass shooting was a little disturbed in some sense. I'm not showing any anger towards that person. I'm showing empathy. Also empathy towards the people who died, and also empathy towards their parents and loved ones, because well, murder is something that resonates through the consciousness of everybody in a very negative way. Taking another life for no reason, not even food or eating or survival, is a very bad and negative reason in my opinion and in my spiritual understanding. So obviously this person was not in, I don't want to use the word right because there's no such thing as right or wrong on planet Earth, and more about that in a different video. In the universe, I mean, although on Earth we keep saying this is right, that's wrong and all that. But they were not in a good or not in a balanced or not in a neutral or not in a loving state of mind. If, I believe it was a he was not in a great state of mind. When somebody is not in a great state of mind, what does that tell us? On a planet, and again I'm going to reference Dolores Cannon's books here, if the entire species is loving and happy and kind and neutral and shares everyone's beliefs and opinions. I even read in a book, in Dolores Cannon's books, that one of the guys visited another planet in a different realm from his consciousness of a past life. Over there, he said the beings, when they approach each other, they already know everything that each other is thinking, so there's nothing to hide. What a wonderful concept. So I believe that if this boy grew up in an environment that was loving, that was supportive, where people knew each other's thoughts, they could freely communicate, there would be no reason for that person to be disturbed or depressed. I myself have come out of depression. If you followed my story or my YouTube channel or my vlogs and so on, you would know that there was many periods there, despite being a top student, despite having my music featured in the media, despite having a very pretty woman for a wife, despite having a wonderful child, despite having very decent parents who did the best they could as immigrants, and despite very loving friends, well, mostly very loving friends as I grew up, I still underwent depression. So clearly, there's something on the planet that's not right. I think we all know that. And the spiritual community definitely knows it. And that's why there's what we call the Great Awakening going on planet Earth. I think we now need to start to accelerate this awakening. And I'm even speaking to myself here as a reminder and other light workers, because we tend, as Teal Swan says, we tend to be people who went through a lot of shit in life. And that stuff, it's strange to me that we've been tasked with awakening the planet. But it's also good because, of course, we understand both sides. But what happens is we can be a little weak, a little too much into self-care because we're trying to escape all these wounds that we don't really take action. So I'd like to urge all the light workers around the planet and all the spiritual beings and everyone who knows and understands a little bit about the word spirituality. And I'm not setting any standards here because there are none. As long as you understand that you're a kind being, a loving being, a humane being, it's time for you to start to spread that message worldwide, because we need that kind of love, we need that kind of support, we need that kind of connection with each other. And even as I'm saying that, I'm feeling the energy reverberating out of my hands, maybe because I'm a Reiki healer or just because I'm a human being and we all have energy inside us. But I'm feeling this, and maybe you're feeling it too. I feel like we really need to send this loving energy out of us and into the consciousness, where we can spread love and peace and kindness and joy and really help everybody feel heard, understood. The best thing we could all do right now, and I'm setting up a community as well called 3-Part Human, which has undergone various iterations, from a company to hosting courses to now having merchandise or running a support group. I think I'm settling on the support group idea because that's what we need. We need events and we need people to sort of foster connections between each other. And I think if every human being has this, we would not have a need for violence, a need to go around shooting someone mindlessly, or even, let's say we look at me in my case, or any other corporate person who's in the middle class, in a corporate sort of setting, delving in and out of the corporate space, whether it's a day job, or you're a trader, or you're a CEO, or whatever. If we're doing this whole company thing, we're not out there living in villages. In other words, somebody like me and you, for example, we all get angry. I get angry. I stop short of punching the wall sometimes, but I've evolved a bit, so I don't go punch the wall. I mean, there are surges of anger, of course, how can there not be? And the cleaner you get as a vessel, you'll feel energy more strongly. So there are surges of anger, there are all these emotions, but I think it's high time on planet Earth that we help each other to really diffuse these emotions with care and ease. I'm not going to say don't feel the emotion, because there's no such thing. You have to feel the emotion, otherwise you're bottling it up. But we need to transmute these emotions properly into energy, into safe spaces. For me, it's water. I swim and I come out refreshed, or take a shower even. But then again, some spiritual people and very woke scientific people will tell you the water in the shower isn't really healthy for you when chlorine gets activated by the heat of a hot shower, and all sorts of other things we can go into, but that's for other videos and other audio. Transmute that energy and try to spread it out well on planet Earth. That's point number 3, and I think I have 2 more points. One is the post I made and all the ensuing discussion, and another one is we really have to talk to America. We have to send this message to them and tell them, what are you guys doing out there? I've heard responses from my post which said, oh, America's not really a dictatorship, so you can't really write to the White House and say change this because there's multiple factions. I'm going to address that, or try to, in point number 5 as best as I can, and also keep it short. So thanks for listening so far. So point 4 is the post I put up on LinkedIn and Facebook, and what I said was, why do you allow everyone to buy guns? And I tagged the White House, which is the White House on LinkedIn, and also comma, National Security Council, the White House, which are the 2 government organizations I found on LinkedIn, question mark. Do you think, question mark, You try to control just about every other damn thing on the planet, even entertainment, which is supposed to be free expression, but you won't control guns? Question mark. Wow, there's a lot of brain power right there. Claps slowly, which is this, like in a sarcastic way. Some of the comments, one from Stephen Tan. I fail to see how the incessant self-backslapping, I think he means encouraging backslapping or like well done, about American democracy resolves/curtails the actual outcomes of dead children and adults/teachers in schools, homes, malls, etc. I am just glad this is virtually absent in the country I live in, and I think he's referring to Singapore where I live. Rainy Rainmaker is an executive life coach and friend of mine, and she says the guns are given free expression at the cost of innocent lives? Question mark. Whenever someone goes crazy, they go out and shoot people. Martin Longden says the original Constitution gave all Americans the right to bear arms against enemies, both foreign and domestic. At the time, this was due to the emerging nation of the United States still being subject to spies and rebels against the formation of a new nation outside the British Commonwealth and their attempts to subvert the formation of a new sovereign nation. Hence the right to bear arms against enemies, ... domestic, full stop. The Attorney General in 1908 ordered the creation under the Department of Special Agent Force. Okay, he goes on to describe how guns came into being in in the US, and he says, imagine if responsible leadership and logic had made changes back then, how many more children would be alive? And what if any one of them might have developed a cure for cancer as part of their life destiny? Imagine the change. Well, I think there's already cures for cancer. It's by living healthily, but all right. He has a great point. And Clements Kutzner says, would focus more on the Republicans having been blocking stronger gun laws for some time, Zephyr. White House, open bracket, present precedent, not previous, close bracket, and Democrats are trying. To my understanding, the White House and America has Democrats and Republicans. More on that in point number 5. Yeah, I told him I'm not so sure how the legal system works. And Axel Ching says, one needs to understand the history of gun ownership. What seems strange to us may not be for them, which is true. But hopefully my points 1 to 3 are helping you guys in the US, if you're from the US, understand what the rest of the world is trying to tell you. I have friends in the US who are from pro and anti-guns. Both sides have their reasons. Okay, interesting. And now I'll move on to my Facebook post. A friend of mine, Ruby Mehta, I think she lives in Australia, says, read the American Constitution. You're asking people to give up their rights so that revolution can never happen and only control takes place. Well, that's a valid point. But if we go in a loving method, control can be discussed and agreed upon by the entirety of humanity. And that's what they say in Conversations with God. This has to be one society, not so many societies. That's what I see with everyone reacting. Okay, great spot, Ruby. Have you ever thought it could be another psychological operation? Yeah, it could be. She has more comments which I need to reply to because I haven't. Okay. Nathaniel Currier, who I believe is also in the music scene in Singapore, says the US is not a dictatorship and the White House doesn't make the rules. There are quite a lot of gun restrictions in the US. Actually, not that these really help in these situations. The right of the people to keep and bear arms is a fundamental individual right granted by the Constitution of the US. For many Americans, changing this is an attack on their freedom, which I get doesn't make a lot of sense when these type of events happen, but it's part of the fabric of being an American and it's constantly under attack from both sides. Changing that wording to be able to do things like ban gun ownership is much more complicated than it seems on the surface. As an American, do I think gun bans will help? Honestly, not really. Really? Okay. There's something like 400 million legally owned and licensed guns in the United States, and who knows how many more illegal ones spread across private owners that have technically banned guns, and then those owned by criminals, probably a few hundred million more. That doesn't even include the endless arsenals owned by law enforcement, the business, and the military. Guns outnumber the people by a staggering number. Holy crap. That is a sad thing. Well, thanks for bringing that up, Nathaniel. On top of that, a huge number of Americans have guns at home for sport, collections, hunting, livestock protections from animals or criminals. It's so deeply rooted in American culture, not even culture, the subconscious of the American experience. I'm doubtful that there will ever be significant gun ownership changes in the US, even if I'm not a fan of guns myself. You are practically talking about something of the same personal importance to a vast number of people as telling them to give up their religion. Wow, this is a fantastic reply, but I've been so busy with work today, I've not replied to him yet, and I will later. And I'll tag him in this video as well. Thanks, Nathaniel. So these are the responses from my LinkedIn and Facebook post. That's point number 4. Let's just call this point, there are two sides. And we need to look at both because everybody is human and we need to respect and honor everyone's wishes as is in line with their soul paths for this lifetime. And now finally, based on this point, I want to have a point number 5 and say that, hey guys, look, I understand that America is a slightly different place than the rest of the world. In fact, in conversations with God or spirit guides who I like to talk to on a daily basis, for clients and myself and so on. I'm a healer as well. Let's not get into the definition of what a healer is. There's a lot of arguments on that, but it's just for simple purposes, like I'm just calling myself a doctor because I work in medicine, all right? I think that although it's a complex country, in conversations with God, whoever the author is speaking to, the spirit guide or God, says that we should take the example of America, not for the guns, but the fact of but the part about how all the states, how they all sort of work together to solve issues. And it's, if I'm not wrong, it says they all cooperate and they sort of govern themselves, which yes, most countries do. They have a central armed forces in a sense. And it was very beautifully laid out, the example of how the planet could work. So I really urge you to get that book, Conversations with God. It really has every answer you need to live on planet Earth well. My whole life changed after reading that book. But that was not the only thing, obviously. We need to learn how to have laws or understand that, okay, when America was forming, and I'm speaking to the Americans here and everyone else, this is my personal take, is that when America was forming, sure, and like Nathaniel says, it's rooted into the culture, I get it, but over time, we have to learn, we have to change, we have to improve, we have to eventually, and this is basic success coaching one-on-one, not even in spirituality or gun realm, which is if you want a particular outcome, you've got to work towards it. It's that simple. So if we want a loving planet, and I believe I brought this up as an example right at the start about my daughter having toys which are guns and that's not going to be allowed in my house, it's the same thing. Sooner or later, because Nathaniel's raised such amazing numbers and points which explain things better to me, I want to then say, okay, that's a big problem if we do want a peaceful world. So what do? We can't just stop. So I think the change has to continue, the dialogue has to continue. For those of you who think this is going to happen in your lifetime, I think Nathaniel's right, it's not going to happen in your lifetime. But if we start changing now, in about 50 to 100 years, based on how technology is going, it could very well be possible to eradicate guns unless we all agree on it as a species to protect planet Earth, maybe, if we all start working together. Again, in your mind, you might be thinking, oh, everyone has to let go of the gun, we got to throw the gun away. How is that going to happen? Well, again, based on technology, that might not be required. We never know the technology of the future as beings from other planets help, and I don't want to talk too much about that topic here, but really we could come to a technology where we can just eradicate metal like that, eradicate plastic like that, right? It's not that hard to think. If we can melt stuff, there could be a way eventually through quantum physics, quantum mechanics, metaphysics and so on, because the world is really heading in that direction. Whether you believe spirituality or you don't, it doesn't matter. It's still heading in that direction. I can tell you that there are a lot of people working towards that, both from the planet and outside the planet. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't make a difference. It's still happening. And so eventually we could come to see the kind of technology, and I'm just vamping here because I'm hoping that would happen. And I only started thinking that when I was saying this, which really means it's channeled, that we could eradicate certain things on planet Earth that we all do not want as a species, or introduce certain things that we do want as a species. And I don't think it's going to be that hard. I'm having an image of the Transformer movies here, where literally we get a giant magnet and just suck up all the metal from planet Earth. Now, those of you going, oh my God, this guy's crazy. I see the funny side of that too, and obviously I don't mean in that way. I don't mean we just lift up all the buildings and destroy everything. That would be stupid. But I think systematically, we could find a way eventually to let go of the weapons, to destroy the weapons, maybe sink them to the bottom of the ocean, whatever. I'm not here to debate that right now. But I think what you can do to start with as a human is either go make another video like this, all right? Or share this video with anyone else, or share similar videos which are discussed better perhaps, because I'm not by no means the best video creator on the planet. Share better videos with people. This spreads this thinking through the consciousness, and that slowly could mean that a person who owns 30 guns at home could let go of 30 guns, throw them in the ocean. Now that's 30 guns less on planet Earth, and I think that matters. And it brings to mind that quote about, I think, a father and a son were walking on the beach or something to that effect, and there was a lot of starfish stranded on the beach. And I remember reading this when I was a kid or something, and one of the two people says, oh, there's no way we're gonna save all these fish, and the son or whoever it was picks up a starfish and throws it back into the ocean and says, well, I saved this one. So that's an encouraging note I'd like to leave you guys on. If you have a gun at home and you don't need one, let it go. Stop buying toys that are violent. Stop teaching your kids how to fight. I understand that in some cities and countries that's not possible, and my wife keeps reminding me about that. But honestly, what is a country? A country is just a collection of human beings. So somewhere we have to push it into the consciousness of these human beings that, hey, violence is not okay, or it's not nice. It's something we can do, yes, because we have muscles and bones and they work, I get it. And then we have projectiles like the topic of this video, but that is not how we build a kinder and more loving planet. And yes, there's a space for all technology and tools, including guns, including huge projectiles, bigger than guns, which could maybe save our planet one day in a war with a more violent race or planet. Sure, but that doesn't mean we gotta start shooting each other now. I think we can stop. That's what I'm trying to say. And my heart and condolences go out to the people whose children got murdered, those children who are alone. Bless your souls. Let's just everybody, maybe you can pause the video right here and say a prayer yourself. I will, but I'll not waste time on the video or the audio. I'll just cut that out now after this. I just did a prayer there, did some Reiki, sent a Reiki connection to everyone who was impacted by this directly, and asked for safe passage of the children's souls into other realms and back to where we go after we die. So thanks so much for listening to this episode, and thanks so much for listening to my views on this matter. I hope it helps us to create a better world. This is my way of contributing and giving back. This is the way I know how. Thanks so much. Subscribe to this channel if you wish to receive more such content, and check out the videos that should be popping up on either side of me. Take care, my friends, and I really hope you guys have an amazing May and a much more contemplative June and rest of the year ahead. And I really wish as a species that we can stop this kind of violence. Thank you.